You look at other states that do this, there's no evidence that this is a problem. It's really just a protectionist attempt by the cosmetology schools because they want to earn the money from these people who want to legally be able to style hair.
That was Boyack, president of Libertas Institute, in an interview with ABC4 News back in January, explaining why they support SB 87, which would exempt a cosmetologist from having to get a license if their services are limited to drying, styling, arranging, dressing, curling, hot ironing, shampooing, and conditioning hair. Welcome to our In Focus discussion tonight on Utah's Cosmetology Licensing Amendments Bill. This bill's received strong opposition from a number of industry professionals, cosmetology schools, and students who've protested in downtown Salt Lake City over the past few weeks. Joining us first live via Zoom to provide the supporting perspective is a person you heard from at the top of the segment, Boyack, president of Libertas Institute. Connor, thanks for being a part of our discussion tonight. It's good to see you.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Connor, what prompted the creation of the bill? Is there a backstory behind this, or maybe a constituent who approached Representative Kurt Bramble or Representative Candace Perucci about it?
There was actually a woman who owned what's called a blow-dry bar here in Utah, a location where a woman can go get a shampoo, blow-dry, and an updo. And this woman has had success with her business, but she's had a hard time hiring people. She's had a lot of interest from people who want to work there, but they don't have a cosmetology degree. They don't want to pay $20,000 and go to school for 1,600 hours just to perform these limited services. And so she reached out to her legislator, and that started the discussion which led to this bill.
Now, Libertas Institute supports this bill. So what is your organization's reasoning to support the exemption for cosmetologists who dry, style, ranges, etc., from getting a license?
So when you think about what a license is, it's a government permission slip. It's saying you're not allowed to do this work unless we say so. And licensure historically has been reserved for professions that are very dangerous. Think of like a doctor, right? Very specialized knowledge. But when we're talking just about shampooing or conditioning hair, when we're talking about styling hair, these are things that people can do for themselves. Parents do it for their children. This is not highly specialized knowledge. And so what this bill is trying to do is remove that part of the cosmetology license, but leave under the license all of the more specialized information and potentially dangerous practices involving, chemicals and cutting and so forth. And so this is trying to find a more proper balance with cosmetology to make sure that those who are just shampooing and drying and styling can do so without all the heavy costs that come with having to get the license.
So it sounds like this bill would classify which services are more dangerous and will require more safety measures versus ones that wouldn't. Is that correct?
Yeah, roughly speaking, that's true. This is just trying to make sure that we're only licensing as a state the things that really need that government permission slip. Governor Cox's first executive order was about this exact issue, that we need to be doing better as a state to make sure that that burden of government is only appropriately placed where it's absolutely needed.
Now, the opposition argues that even if someone will only perform these limited services, that it's crucial for them to get the proper education and training that's provided in cosmetology school to keep equipment clean and clients safe during a time like COVID-19. What would your response be to these concerns?
My response would be that we all go eat out at restaurants, and the people who are cooking our food have taken a 75-minute class. That's it. You can take it online, costs you about 15 bucks, and that is the government's interest when it comes to keeping us safe in what we put into our bodies. And whether you go to a 5-star restaurant or down to the local Wendy's, the government's interest is that basic safety. That's what this bill is trying to do, and it's making sure that even when we're exempting from licensure the people who are just doing these limited services, they're still going to have to get what's going to be called a hair safety permit. They're going to take a class that lasts no more than 2 hours to make sure that the government's public safety interest is there, that we can protect safety, but that we're not going to require them to go 1,600 hours to a school that teaches them all kinds of stuff that has nothing to do with the limited services that they do want to do.
Now, after hearing concerns from the opposition, the sponsoring lawmakers have made adjustments to the bill. Could you update us on what those changes are?
Yeah, in fact, I just mentioned the main one. There will now be a hair safety permit that is required. It's being modeled somewhat after the food safety permit, albeit more time. Instead of just 75 minutes, it'll be up to 2 hours. It was amended in committee today, and that 2-hour limitation was added as well. This is in recognition of the concerns from cosmetology schools and others who have claimed that this will be a highly dangerous thing, that the sky will fall if people are using curling irons, unregulated. And so we're just saying, okay, then we'll model it after the food safety permit. We'll follow a similar path. And that way, as people take a basic safety course, we can all be assured that they have that basic knowledge just to make sure that they're doing this safely.
Connor, do you know what the latest status on this bill and what's next for SB 87?
So this is a Senate bill. It's already passed the Senate. Just about an hour ago, actually, less than an hour ago, it passed its House committee 10-5 after lots of comments for and against. Committee members recognize that this is good policy. It's now going to the full House. It'll probably be not until next week that it will get a vote in the House, and then it's off to the governor for signature.
All right, you've been hearing from Connor Boyack, president of Libertas Institute. Connor, thank you so much for being here tonight to provide the supporting perspective of this bill. We appreciate your time in participating in our discussion.
Thanks for having me.
The reason that I believe that this bill is problematic is I think that there's a lot of misconception about what goes on in our industry and the education that we receive in school. Yes, we learn technical training, of course, but we also learn extensive knowledge in human biology and chemistry and trichology and infectious disease control.
That was Devin Johnson, a local licensed cosmetologist and instructor, in an interview with ABC4 News last Wednesday, explaining why she opposes SB 87. Thanks for staying with us for our second In Focus discussion tonight on Utah's Cosmetology Licensing Amendments Bill. Earlier, you heard from the supporting perspective on SB 87. Now we turn to the opposition. Joining us now live in studio is Lenore Gibson, owner of Collective Hairdressing Academy, and via Zoom, the person you heard from at the beginning of this segment, Devin Johnson, a licensed cosmetologist and instructor. Lenore and Devin, thank you both for being here tonight and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Now, you both oppose SB 87. Lenore, could you explain what a student learns in cosmetology school and why you believe it is essential, even if that person goes on to just perform the limited services listed in the bill?
Well, I think as Devin said in the clip, we study trichology, which is the study of actual hair. We study electricity, we study infection control, which is probably the most important thing, health and safety. And it's not just about reading, taking a 2-hour test where you're just reading about infection control. It's about hands-on. This industry is definitely hands-on, and it takes time to learn about hair, the different types of hair, and how to handle it, whether it be sensitive hair, strong hair. And really understand what those the infection controls can do for us.
Devin, let's talk about the COVID-19 pandemic. Industry professionals were eventually able to return to work as long as they maintain safety protocols with their clients. How does the training and education that's taught in cosmetology school play a role in this?
Well, it's clear the sponsors of this bill don't have the information about the education that we receive and the protocols mandatory to perform on the state board exam. So the sanitation that happens in a salon environment is very extensive. It isn't about teaching how to be sanitary, it's about why we need to be. This comes with learning human biology, chemistry, infectious disease control, just like we said. And also salons contribute 0.05 to 0.07 of COVID transmission in the United States. And we plan to keep that number low. And we plan to do that by giving the workers of this industry education necessary to protect themselves and their clients.
Lenore, in response to the opposition's concerns about training and safety and cleanliness, Senator Bramble said that a facility would still be subject to the regulation of the health department. What is your response to this?
Well, it's going to take a lot to get the health department out and regulate. There just isn't enough regulation, and it's going to take somebody turning a salon that isn't in compliant And that's probably not going to happen because there are compliance in place now where they don't get turned in, because if you do make a complaint, the person that makes the complaint knows who actually makes it. And so there's a lot of hairdressers that won't come forward and make those complaints if people are not in compliance.
Devin, the bill would require that a sign be posted in the individual's place of business, warning customers that the cosmetologist is not licensed under the state's act. Is this enough in terms of informing the customer that they are not receiving services from a licensed individual?
I don't believe that that is enough. I think that the education is the key here. And I do find it interesting that these bills have the motive to get the state out of our industry, but are perfectly willing to hand over all regulation to the state. You know, wouldn't it make more sense to have educated professionals that are trained in safety, guiding our workforce to protect the general public? Like, doesn't that create more valuable jobs?
Lenore, after hearing concerns from the opposition, the sponsoring lawmakers created a substitute bill that would require unlicensed cosmetologists to receive a hair safety permit by completing a hair safety program approved by the Utah Division of Occupational and Professional Licensing with a score of 75% or greater. For you, is that a good compromise?
No, that's not a compromise at all. To take a 2-hour test, again, as I said earlier, it's more of a hands-on approach. And so in school, as students, they have time in school to be able to identify what these infectious controls, how they need to happen, and identify things that could be happening with the scalp and the hair. This isn't about reading and just taking a test. And yeah, a food handler's permit, you're ingesting food, but here we're working with the scalp and chemicals and hot irons. There's a lot that is going to go into it, and a 2-hour test is not going to handle it. And how do you know who's taking that test? What controls do we have on the other end that says the person taking that test online is actually working in the industry, because they could get somebody else to take the test for them?
Lenore and Devin, hold that thought. We have to take a quick commercial break, but when we return, we'll continue our In Focus discussion on SB 87.
Anybody that touches another person needs to have some pretty extensive training. You look at massage therapists, you look at estheticians, you look at nail techs, you look at any profession where you touch a person, you're required to have a license.
That was Brenda Sharman, a local salon owner and industry advocate, in an interview with ABC4 News back in January, explaining why she opposes SB 87. Welcome to our third and final In Focus discussion tonight on Utah's Cosmetology Licensing Amendments Bill. Before the break, Lenore Gibson, owner of Collective Hairdressing Academy, and Devin Johnson, a licensed cosmetologist and instructor, joined us to explain why they oppose SB 87. Ladies, we pick up right where we left off. Devin, one example that the sponsoring lawmaker has used is of a Utah woman named Justina Clayton, who was punished by the state for offering her hair braiding services for pay since she was not licensed. She learned how to braid at the age of 5, which is longer than most cosmetology students have been practicing. She sued and then won her case on the basis of her constitutional right to earn a living. Now, in your opinion, is it comparable to apply that situation to this one with the bill?
I don't think that's comparable. It's a different service that you're talking about. So the bill we're talking about now deals with blow drying and heat styling and that deregulation. And I also don't believe that she should have been punished for wanting to offer braiding services. I think the state should have given her the necessary resources and information to expand her work so she could make a better living. Most cosmetology schools accept FAFSA, and there are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of scholarship opportunities. And if there was a department that cared enough to take the time to help her for real and motivate her, we could have maintained a safe and healthy industry. And I think a narrative that's been left out of a lot of the opposition is that there is a hair design license. You can go to school in about 6 months to obtain a hair design license, and it costs less as well. So we already have plans for splitting our license up into services. And like I said before, I find it interesting that they're willing to hand the regulations to the state when they're trying to keep the state out of our industry.
Lenore, if this bill is passed, would there be an economical impact on cosmetology schools, since less cosmetologists would have to enroll in training and education to get a license?
It's not about an economical impact for the schools. If you want to become a professional hairdresser and you want a lifelong career and not just a minimum wage job, we're going to be in business as far as school and as far as education. It's not about that. It's about protecting the clients and the public against having no regulation whatsoever. I mean, we're working, we have a client sitting in our chair hour after hour, and in blow dry bars, it's probably even, you know, every 30 minutes they've got a client sitting there. And so if they're not trained to make sure that they're sanitizing and they're able to detect, again, problems from client to client, there's going to be a real challenge. So I think it's more of an economic impact even for those that are just blow drying. That's giving them a minimum wage job, not a career. And as Devin was saying, this is about training for a career. And you can start school and you can assist and learn how to blow dry and work in a salon as an assistant doing those things while you're still continuing getting your license. And at that point, you can try it on to see if you like the industry while you're doing that. So there are so many things in play that are there that we don't have to turn it into a separate license where it's deregulated.
Devin, what kind of impact would this have for cosmetologist business owners? Would this impact your hiring process and maybe reduce the number of people who would actually meet the criteria that you're looking for?
Absolutely. These bills essentially incentivize corporations to underpay and undervalue their workers, just like Lenore was saying. And you know, these services are valuable. Most small businesses don't have the tools or resources available to train unlicensed people. We have curriculums and protocols for a reason. This won't only destroy the economy of our workforce, but it will change the way that we feed our families forever. So we've created a petition for the people and the clients of our industry to resist working, hiring, or being serviced by a person looking to skip the education and effort it takes to become a professional. And we have 1,600 signatures so far.
Devin, final words. What would you like our viewers at home to know tonight, particularly if they are clients that receive services from a cosmetology business?
Well, if you're an individual who regularly gets their hair done in a salon by a professional and you want to look good and you want to be serviced in a safe environment, I urge you to contact your local House representatives and oppose Senate Bill 87 and House Bill 266.
Lenore, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, to me, this is just the start of a deregulation. So it's definitely more political. It's not about just giving somebody the right to blow dry and have a living without a license. This is about the deregulation of our industry, and they're just chipping away at it. And it's not necessary. We're happy. If you ask clients, they want to walk into a salon and have licensed professionals. They don't want to walk in and look to see, are these people professional or not, and look and read a sign. They should expect more from us. They should expect a professional salon in a professional environment that we're taking care of them, and they know that.
All right, you've been hearing from Lenore Gibson, owner of Collective Hairdressing Academy, and Devin Johnson, a licensed cosmetologist and instructor. Lenore and Devin, thank you both for being here tonight and providing the opposition perspective to this bill.
Thank you for having us.